Simple flying ranked the most extreme airports due to their geographic locations, frequent inclement weather, or both. The first airport on our list is the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport in downtown Washington, D.C. Pilots here must take unusually complicated paths to avoid restricted airspace above landmarks and government buildings. Planes on approach must follow the Potomac River, while departing flights must ascend rapidly with a quick turn to avoid the White House. Pilots must then reduce engine power once they've reached 1,500 feet to comply with noise restrictions. With sharp turns and the sudden deceleration on departure, passengers have described flying out of Reagan National as taking off on a space shuttle. Congonhas Airport is the busiest domestic airport in Brazil. Once an international airport built outside the city centre, Congonhas' short runways are now surrounded by heavily built-up neighbourhoods with tall residential and office towers. Planes here have to approach very close to the tops of buildings, and it's quite a sight to peek into people's living rooms as a passenger as you're about to land. The slippery runways at Congonhas Airport have also been the cause of several accidents, most notably TAM Airlines Flight 3054 on the evening of July 17, 2007. The flight from Porto Alegre to Sao Paulo overran runway 35 left during moderate rain, crashing into a TAM Express warehouse next to a Shell gas station. All 187 passengers and crew plus 12 people on the ground perished. The accident was caused by errors committed by the pilots during the landing at Sao Paulo in combination with the wet, slippery runway. The runway has been resurfaced to address these issues. Recently, an EMAS system that uses crushable material placed at the end of a runway to stop planes has been installed to prevent aircraft overruns. The majority of flights out of Congonhas land at Santos Dumont Airport, the second major airport in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This is a challenging airport with extremely short runways, surrounded by ocean and significant obstacles on both sides. On the north end, you have the tall Rio Niterói Bridge and the famous Sugarloaf Mountain at the south. Pilots have to negotiate the city's mountainous terrain by either flying over the bay entrance, then quickly swerving behind the famous Sugarloaf Mountain, or flying over central Rio and mountainous terrain, minding the bridge seconds before touching down. Planes taking off have to quickly bank left to avoid Sugarloaf, or climb quickly to avoid the bridge at the other end. Santos Dumont's runway also makes landings a very intense braking experience, described by some passengers as landing on an aircraft carrier. Boeing even launched a special modified version of the 737-800 specifically for this airport. The short-field performance changes were developed in 2004 in response to Brazilian airline Gol's needs at Santos Dumont. The design enhancements include a two-position tail skid that enables reduced approach speeds, sealed leading edge slats that provide increased lift during takeoff, and increased flight spoiler deflection on the ground that improves takeoff and landing performance. Since then, other airlines worldwide have also added 737-800 SFP to their fleets. Aspen, Colorado is considered one of the most challenging airports in the USA. Pilots landing here must obtain special certification, as the airport, wedged between two mountains, requires a swift descent at a high altitude, as the Aspen Airport runway is at an altitude of 7,820 feet. Aspen is also subject to snowstorms and low visibility with frequent cloud cover, and to top all of that, strong gusty winds that can change instantly, making Aspen only for the most experienced pilots. On the subject of windy airports, we now come to Wellington Airport in New Zealand. Wellington is the windiest city in the world, with an average of 178 days a year gusting at or above 63 kilometers an hour. The reason the airport is very windy is because it sits on the edge of the Cook Strait, the major gap between two mountain ranges running the length of the North and South Islands of New Zealand. The bumpiest landings are usually experienced when landing on northerly winds. The gale force winds travel over the city's northern suburbs' hills, creating heavy turbulence over the bay and runway. The gale force winds can sometimes force pilots to go around and try again. Chicago O'Hare, another windy city, has about 2 or 3 go-arounds a day on average. That's more than Wellington, which can manage no go-arounds most days despite the windy conditions. O'Hare is a significantly larger airport that handles many more flights per day, and go-arounds can occur for various reasons, not just wind. Wellington, however, may offer passengers a roller coaster of a ride.
Whoa!
Toncontin International Airport in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, is next on our list. To land at this airport, located on a small area surrounded by high mountains, pilots descend steeply over the roofs of houses, flying very close to the mountainside onto the runway. Many accidents, including TACA Flight 390, which overran on May 30, 2008, forced the government to rethink the airport's viability for large passenger jets. That led to the construction of the new Palmarola Airport, which opened in December 2021 for international flights, offering a new gateway to the central country. This meant Toncontin became a strictly domestic airport. Funchal Airport on the Portuguese island of Madeira is another challenging airport. The strong winds break off the cliffs and create aggressive turbulence right above the runway. Landing at this airport can become very difficult and even dangerous. Funchal had its runway extended twice to allow larger modern aircraft to land. The extensions also prevent another crash like TAP's Flight 425 in 1977, overshot the runway after 2 failed landing attempts and killed 131 of the 164 passengers on board. The most recent extension in 2000 was built on a unique elevated platform over the rocky terrain below. Bhutan's Paro International Airport approach starts at an altitude of around 16,000 feet or 4,800 meters through a long, winding valley 600 feet or 200 meters wide at its narrowest point, leading to a runway that's only visible moments before landing. Pilots also need to watch for electrical poles and house roofs on the hillside as they make their way between the mountains at a 45-degree angle before dropping quickly onto the runway. The Courchevel Altiport is a prime location in the heart of the French Alps, and it is very convenient for holiday skiers. The airfield has a very short runway of only 537 meters or 1,762 feet, with a gradient of 18.6%. Because of this, Courchevel has a no-go-around procedure due to the short runway ending straight on the side of a mountain. This means that once the plane has committed to landing here, there is not enough clearance to be able to take off and try again. The airport does see a few small turboprops, such as the Pilatus PC-12, take off and land. However, smaller fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters can better access the airfield. Heavy and oversized jets cannot land at Courchevel due to its uphill gradient, steep approach, and the no-go-around procedure. Similar to Courchevel, the Tenzing Hillary Airport, also known as Lukla Airport, is a short 1,500-foot or 460-meter steep angled airstrip with an 11.7% gradient on the side of the mountain, surrounded by steeper mountainous terrain at the edge of a cliff with a 2,000-foot or 700-meter drop. Lukla is over 3,000 feet higher than Courchevel in altitude at 9,337 feet. The reduced air resistance makes it more challenging to slow the plane down. At high altitudes, the short runway, wind shear, and unpredictable mountain weather make Lukla the most challenging airport on our list. One of the worst accidents here was the 8th of October 2008 crash of a de Havilland DHC-6 Twin Otter from Yeti Airlines. The plane burst into flames after impacting the airport fence and ground. The fire took 2 hours to extinguish, with the plane sliding down 50 meters from the original point of impact. 18 people, including 12 Germans, were killed. And no list of extreme airports could forget to mention Saba. The Juancho E. Orauskin Airport on the Dutch Caribbean island of Saba is the bonus airport on our list, and it is the shortest commercial airport in the world, with a runway length of just 1,312 feet or 400 meters. There are no overrun areas on either end of the paved runway, where sheer cliffs drop off over 200 feet or 60 meters into the sea. Only regional airline propeller aircraft can land here under waivers from the Netherlands Antilles Civil Aviation Authority. The most common aircraft are the STOL-capable de Havilland Canada DHC-6 Twin Otter and BN-2 Islander. Have you ever had a white knuckle experience at any of these airports? Are there any other airports that should be on this list? Have your say in the comments.